everybody, our group has 4 members. My name is Nguyễn Cẩm Tú. This is Bạch Khánh Hòa, Phạm Bích Ngọc, and Nguyễn Ngọc Linh. We are going to talk with you about Buddhism.
Now I'm going to talk about the life of Buddha. The founder of Buddhism is Buddha Shakyamuni. Shakyamuni was born as the royal prince in 324 BC in Lumbini, northern India, which is Nepal in present day. His parents gave him the name Siddhartha, which means every wish is fulfilled. The Brahmin seer predicted that Siddhartha would become a Buddha, and that his beneficial influence will pervade the 1,000,000,000 worlds like the rays of the sun. Siddhartha lived the fantasy life in the palace since he was born. The legend says that Siddhartha mastered all the traditional arts and sciences. He was also very skilled at mathematics and languages. Sometimes the prince came into the capital city of his father's kingdom to see how people live and work. During the visit, he soon realized that living beings, without exception, are trapped into a vicious circle of life in which they suffer birth, sickness, aging, and death. The young prince felt that compassion for them and wished to free them from all sufferings. He intended to leave the palace so as to engage in profound meditation until he attained the enlightenment. When the king knew about his son's intention, he arranged a marriage, hoping that this would change his mind. The bride is Yasodhara, a daughter of a respected Shakya family. Prince Siddhartha has no choice but to obey his father's wish because it would bring temporary benefit to Shakya people. When Siddhartha turned 29, he had a dream of Buddha of 10 directions came and reminded him about the path of enlightenment, which he has to start now. The king and queen therefore tried all means to keep the prince inside the palace. They surrounded him with beautiful girls, music, and pleasure. However, the prince's determination of living could not be shaken. He finally escaped the palace, cut off his hair, totally left the mundane life behind, and ordained himself as a monk. Afterward, he made his way to Bodh Gaya, where he found a suitable place for his meditation. After 6 years emphasizing a meditation called space-like concentration on the Dharmakaya, he felt that he was really close to attaining the perfect enlightenment. He then went to the Bodhi tree, where he sat in meditation posture and vowed not to leave until he had reached full enlightenment. Siddhartha's mind is so focused that he could successfully enter to the darkest reaches of his unconscious. It was now that he would face his final and greatest torment. The demon Mara, the lord of ego and illusion, tries to distract him by unleashing an army of demons and to attack Siddhartha. The arrows from the army were turned into lotus blossom. Then the Mara tries to seduce him by sending his tempting daughters. Of course, all of the evil daughters disappear after receiving no attraction from Siddhartha. In this way, he dispelled over the demons of this world and subsequently became the Buddha, the awakened one. He finally realized that desire is the key cause of dissatisfaction and suffering of one's life. In the last 45 years of his life, he traveled throughout the northeastern India to spread out his philosophy by sharing his experience and teaching people to follow the middle path.
Now I will talk with you about some brief historical development of Buddhism, what happened to it since its founder passed away. When Buddha had passed away, the community he found gradually evolved into a region-like movement, and all the teaching that he had given before now became the basis of Buddhism. In order to preserve Buddha's teaching, not so long after his death, the first Buddhist council was held. The meeting consists of 500 monks recite and review the Buddha's sermons and his rule for monks and nuns and agree which were authentic. 100 years later, the second Buddhist council was organized. This had created an internal division, which led to the separation of Buddhism. The breakaway group, Mahayana, later became the branch of Buddhism that grew to China, Tibet, and Japan. The original group from the Buddhist council, Theravada, is the one that maintained throughout Southeast Asia. Since the beginning, Buddhism was a relatively minor tradition in India. However, by the 3rd century before Christ, Buddhism started to be noticed and strongly grew thanks to the help of Indian Emperor Asoka the Great. He turned Buddhism into the state religion of India, developed and encouraged Buddhist missionary activity beyond India to other countries such as Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Sri Lanka. After Asoka times, from Sri Lanka, Buddhism was carried over the sea to Myanmar. Around 200, Buddhism came to Cambodia, Thailand, Vietnam, and Laos. About the 5th century, Indonesia and Malaysia started taking Buddhism. The presence of Buddhism in China started during the Han Dynasty, when the first Buddhist missionary came to the Silk Road. From China, Buddhism traveled to Korea in 372. In Tibet, although the country had known about Buddhism from earlier times, the official introduction of Buddhism was during the reign of the first Tibetan emperor. Later, Buddhism became very powerful in Tibet. Buddhism continued to grow and develop from then. Its philosophy had traveled all over the world with about 350 million Buddhists and influenced the life of many people. In contrast with the growth of Buddhism outside India, within India, Buddhism lost its popularity and started to fade after the time of the Ashoka.
Two major branches of Buddhism are Theravada and Mahayana. In some classification, Vajrayana is the third branch. However, some people think Vajrayana is a part of Mahayana. Theravada means the school of the elders, or sometimes called impolitely as lesser vehicle. Theravada is written by Pali Canon. It is popular in Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia. Theravada is believed to be the oldest form of Buddhism. It concentrates on your own liberation from suffering and suggests seeking enlightenment for yourself first. In Theravada Buddhism, there is no salvation or forgiveness of God because it is a part of a purely impersonal process and part of the universe. In Theravada, they only recognize Sakyamuni Buddha, past Buddhas, and Maitreya Bodhisattva. Mahayana means the great vehicle, has a widespread following in East Asia. Mahayana is written by Sanskrit. It focuses on the universal compassion and the selfless idea of the Bodhisattva. The purpose is opening the Buddhahood to all people. Mahayana refers that delaying nirvana to help others. Bodhisattvas are the enlightened beings who defer the salvation to save human soul. Mahayana think that reading or listening sutras can eliminate the negative impact of karma. In Mahayana, besides Sakyamuni Buddha, other contemporary Buddhas like Amitabha and Medicine Buddha are accepted. Avalokitesvara, Mansuri Kristigarbha, and Samantabhadra are also very popular.
The first noble truth of Buddhism is that suffering is an inescapable part of life. The legends say that when Gautama, who later became the Buddha, left his palace, he saw an old man, a diseased man, and a decaying corpse. He realized that our lives include struggle, anguish, and pain. The second noble truth is that this suffering stems from the greed, ignorance, and hatred that arises in our minds, our craving to avoid the difficulties life throws up. The third noble truth is that we can end all this if we can stop craving and respond differently. Doing so brings nirvana, or awakening, a state of complete wisdom and compassion for all beings. The fourth noble truth is the Buddha's recipe for achieving happiness, virtue, and eventually nirvana. It is the eightfold path of developing understanding, positive intentions, skillful speech, action and livelihood, making the right kind of effort, cultivating mindfulness, and mastering meditation.
It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way, from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you